I almost didn't see her. I was coming out of the pharmacy on 3rd Street, prescription bag in my hand, heading for my truck, when I caught a flash of her. Faith, ducking behind a bus shelter like she was trying to disappear into the plexiglass. My own daughter, hiding from me. I stood there a second, telling myself I was wrong. Wrong face, wrong woman, trick of the light. Then Maisie's voice cut through the noise of the street. "Grandpa!" High and bright and 6 years old, before a hand clamped over her shoulder and pulled her back behind the shelter wall. That wasn't nothing. That was my daughter grabbing her own kid to keep him quiet. I walked over, not fast. My knees don't do fast anymore, but steady, the way I used to walk toward a witness stand when I already knew they were lying. "Faith!" She turned around slow, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. She'd lost weight, not the good kind. Her cheekbones stuck out, and her eyes had this hollowed-out look, like something had been scooped out of her and never put back. She was wearing a cardigan 2 sizes too big, sleeves pulled down to her knuckles even though it was 78 degrees out. "Dad," her voice came out wrong, too high, too fast. "Hey, hi, what are you doing all the way out here?" I could ask you the same thing. "Where's your car?" Something flickered across her face. Quick, gone, but I saw it. 38 years of trial work, you learn to read a face in half a second, because half a second is all you usually get. "It's being serviced. Toby's handling it." "Faith, you live 20 minutes from here. Why are you at a bus stop with Maisie in this heat?" We wanted the fresh air, right, baby?" She looked down at Maisie, and I watched my granddaughter's face do something I've never seen a 6-year-old's face do before. She went blank, not happy, not sad, blank, like she'd been trained to have no expression at all when certain questions got asked. "Maisie," I said, crouching down slow, "you doing okay, sweetheart?" She looked up at her mother first, not at me, at her mother, waiting for permission to answer. That's when the floor dropped out from under me. "She's fine, Dad." Faith's hand found Maisie's shoulder again, gripping it the way you'd grip a rail on a boat that was rocking too hard. "Faith!" I stood back up, and my knees screamed at me, but I didn't care. "Look at me. What is going on?" "Nothing's going on. You're hiding from your own father at a bus stop. Your daughter won't speak without checking with you first. You're wearing a sweater in 90-degree weather with your sleeves pulled down to your knuckles. Don't tell me nothing's going on." Her eyes filled up fast, and for a second, just a second, I saw my daughter again. Not this thin, careful stranger. My daughter, the one who used to talk my ear off about everything, who couldn't keep a secret from me if her life depended on it. Then she blinked, and the wall went back up. "Please," she whispered. "Please, just let it go. Not here." "Not here, meaning there's a here where you would tell me?" She didn't answer. The bus pulled up to the curb, brakes hissing, and she moved toward it fast, pulling Maisie along. "Faith," I grabbed her arm, gentle, but I didn't let go. "Whose bruises are those?" She froze. I hadn't even meant to say it, it just came out, because I'd finally clocked what my eyes had been trying to tell me since I first saw her. The way she held that left arm a little stiff, a little careful, sleeve pulled down not because of fashion, but because of what was underneath it. "It's nothing," she said, too fast, too rehearsed. "I bumped it on the cabinet." "Faith." "I have to go, Dad." Her voice cracked right down the middle. "Please. Just don't call me. Don't come by. It'll make things worse." "Worse for who?" She looked at me then, and for one raw second the mask came all the way off. I saw fear in her eyes, real fear, the kind I used to see on the faces of women testifying against men who were sitting 20 feet away from them in a courtroom. "For all of us," she said. "Please, Dad, just let me go." The bus doors opened. She pulled Maisie up the steps. My granddaughter looked back at me through the window as the bus pulled away, one small hand pressed flat against the glass. And she didn't wave. She just watched me, like she was trying to memorize my face in case she didn't get another chance to. I stood on that sidewalk long after the bus turned the corner, my prescription bag crumpled in my fist, and my chest doing something it hadn't since Sarah's funeral. 38 years I spent in courtrooms learning how to spot a lie, how to spot fear, how to spot a person who'd been broken down slow enough that they didn't even know it was happening to them anymore. I was looking right at all three, in my own daughter's face. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 3 years, a name I kept in my contacts and hoped I'd never need again. It picked up on the second ring. Terry speaking, Dominic Investigations? Terry, it's Arthur Dominic. I need your help. It's about my daughter. If you're with me on this one, drop the city you're watching from. Let's see how far this reaches. Follow along, because this is only the beginning.
Terry told me to sit tight, that he'd start pulling records first thing in the morning. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat in my study going through old photographs, trying to figure out when I'd stopped really looking at my daughter's life and started just accepting whatever she told me over the phone. The phone rang at 11:40 p.m. Faith's name came up on the screen, and for a second my heart lifted. She'd changed her mind. She was going to tell me everything. Then I answered, and it was Toby's voice. "Arthur, sorry to call so late. Didn't want this hanging over the night." I kept my voice flat. "What do you need, Toby?" "Faith mentioned she ran into you today. Said you got a little worked up about the car, about her arm." He laughed, easy, like we were talking about a fender bender. "I think she gave you the wrong impression." "Did she?" "The car's in the shop, transmission trouble. My guy's giving me a good rate on it. Should be back to her by the weekend." A pause, just long enough to seem natural. "As for the bruise, she caught her arm on the edge of the kitchen counter last week. She's always been a little clumsy since Maisie was born. You know how it is. Tired all the time, not sleeping." 38 years of listening to men explain away things that didn't need explaining. I know what a rehearsed line sounds like. This was one. "Toby, what shop is it? I'd like to call and check on it myself." The pause this time lasted a full 2 seconds. "I'd have to look it up. Out past the Marina somewhere. I'll get Faith to text you the address." "You do that." "Look, Arthur, I know today probably looked bad, but honestly, Faith's been under a lot of strain lately. Dr. Williams thinks it might be some anxiety flaring up, maybe some memory stuff too. Nothing serious, but she gets things twisted sometimes, says things happened that didn't happen. I just don't want you worrying over nothing." Memory stuff. I sat very still. "Since when does Faith see a Dr. Williams?" "Couple months now. She's good, real thorough. Anyway, I just wanted to clear the air before you two didn't talk for a while. Faith needs some quiet time, less stress. I think it'll help if we scaled back the visits for a bit, just till she's more stable." There it was, the same shape I'd heard 100 times across a courtroom table from men who wanted a judge to believe their wife was the unstable one and they were the reasonable one holding the family together. "I understand," I said, because pushing back right then would have told him I was on to him, and I needed him relaxed, not careful. Whatever's best for her. "Appreciate that, Arthur. Means a lot." The warmth in his voice was too smooth, too rehearsed, like a salesman closing a deal. "I'll get Faith to reach out when she's feeling more like herself." The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, my hand not quite steady, thinking about the last 2 years. It had started small enough that I'd talked myself out of noticing. Sunday dinners canceled, Maisie had a cold, Toby was working late, Eve needed help with something at her place. Then Faith stopped calling on Tuesdays like she used to, our standing little check-in since she was in college. Excuses piled on excuses until 18 months had gone by, and I realized I hadn't had a single real conversation with my daughter that wasn't monitored, timed, or cut short. I remembered the one time she'd called me out of nowhere, voice tight. "Dad, did you ever tell Toby you thought he wasn't good enough for me?" I told her absolutely not, and she'd gone quiet in a way that told me she wanted to believe me, but had already been told something different by someone she trusted more than she trusted her own father. I should have pushed then. I told myself I was giving her space to build her own marriage. The truth was simpler and uglier. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing, so I looked away. Not anymore. I opened my laptop and started writing down everything. Every date, every excuse, every small thing that hadn't added up over 2 years, the way I used to build a case file before a deposition. Somewhere in the middle of it, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Faith's number, but the way it was worded didn't sound like her. "Sorry about earlier, Dad. I overreacted. Everything's fine. Please don't make this into something it isn't. I love you." I read it twice. Faith never called herself overreacting, not once in 32 years, and she never signed off "I love you" in a text. She always called to say it, said she thought texting it felt cheap. Someone else had typed that message. I texted back one line: "I love you too, sweetheart. Call me when you can talk alone." No response came, not that night and not the next morning either. At 8 a.m., Terry called. His voice had lost the casual friendliness from the day before. "Arthur, I pulled some initial records last night. I think you need to sit down for this." I'm sitting. "There's a filing at the county courthouse from 3 weeks ago. Toby's attorney requested a competency evaluation be scheduled for next Thursday." I felt the floor tilt under me for the second time in 2 days. A competency evaluation for what? Terry's voice went quiet. "For a guardianship petition, Arthur. He's already started the paperwork to have her declared unfit."
I met Terry at his office above the hardware store on Front Street, a cramped room that smelled like burnt coffee and old case files. He had a folder waiting for me on the desk, thicker than I expected for 3 days' work. "You move fast," I said, sitting down across from him. "When Arthur Dominic calls in a favor, I move fast." He slid the folder toward me. "Sit down before you look at this." I was already sitting. I opened the folder anyway. The first page was the guardianship filing, Toby's attorney requesting a full competency hearing, citing documented cognitive and emotional instability, and a supporting letter from a Dr. Charlotte Williams. I read the letter twice. It described memory lapses, erratic behavior, a pattern of confusion about basic financial matters. It didn't sound like my daughter. It sounded like a diagnosis written to order. "Since when does Faith have any history with this doctor?" I asked. "She doesn't," Terry said. "I checked. Dr. Williams isn't Faith's doctor of record anywhere. No referral, no prior visits on any insurance claim I could find. She's a doctor Toby's paid twice before. I found her name on 2 other filings." I looked up. "Other filings?" Terry turned to the second section of the folder. 2 names, 2 case numbers, 2 women I'd never heard of. Amanda Reyes married a man named Robert Castell in 2016. Different name, same tactics, same face if you look at the old wedding photos. She had a house from an inheritance. Within 2 years, he had power of attorney, a doctor's letter questioning her mental state, and a filing to have her declared unfit to manage her own assets. She got out before the hearing happened, moved to Ohio, never fully recovered financially. And the second? Priya Anand, different name for him again, Anthony Castell, married in 2019, same doctor's letter, word for word in places, guardianship filing withdrawn after she disappeared from the county entirely. No forwarding address. I can't find her. I sat back, my chest tight. Toby's real name isn't Toby Willis. It is now, legally. He's changed it twice. Deed records, marriage license, everything's clean under the new name each time. But the doctor's letters, same boilerplate language, same handwriting quirks in the signature, same playbook. He's done this before. At least twice that I can prove, probably more we don't know about. Terry tapped the folder. "Arthur, this isn't a husband having a bad marriage. This is a man who marries women with assets, isolates them, gets a paid doctor to build a paper trail, then takes everything through the courts before they know what's happening to them." I thought about Faith's sleeve pulled down from her wrist, about Maisie looking to her mother before she'd answer a single question. What about Eve? Eve Dawson isn't his mother by blood, from what I can tell. She's been present at all 3 filings, listed as a character witness each time. Same woman, different last name used once. She plays the concerned mother-in-law, adds credibility. Faith doesn't know any of this. I doubt it. Men like this compartmentalize. Each wife thinks she's the only one, thinks the problems are hers alone to fix. Arthur, Terry leaned forward. The hearing is scheduled for next Thursday. If that competency ruling goes through, Toby doesn't just get guardianship over Faith's decisions, he gets Maisie, full and clean, no custody fight required, because a woman ruled incompetent doesn't get to argue for her own child in that courtroom. 6 days. We need proof he's lying, I said. Real proof, something a judge can't wave away. Terry nodded slowly. There's one thing working for us. This is the 3rd time he's run this exact play. He's gotten comfortable. Comfortable people get sloppy. What do you have in mind? You're a retired attorney with assets of your own. If Toby thinks you're wavering, thinks you might be persuaded to help fund Faith's care instead of fighting him, he'll want to bring you into the room. Men like this can't resist an easy mark. You want me to play the fool? I want you to play the worried father who doesn't know what he knows yet. Terry closed the folder. Let him explain his plan to your face. Get it on tape. Once we have that, the competency letter falls apart, and so does he. I looked down at the 2 case numbers on the desk, 2 women who never got the chance I was about to get. Set it up, whatever it takes. Terry's phone buzzed on the desk before he could answer. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed. What is it? I asked. It's my contact at the courthouse. He read the message twice. Arthur, they moved the hearing up. It's not next Thursday anymore. When is it? 2 days from now.
2 days. That's all we had. Terry moved fast once the hearing date changed. By that evening, he'd arranged everything. A small wire taped under my shirt, a burner phone with a recording app running in my breast pocket as backup, and a story that would get me through Eve's front door without raising a single flag. Keep it simple, Terry said, fitting the wire under my collar in the back of his car, parked 2 streets from Eve's house. You're a worried father who wants to help pay for Faith's care. You want to set up some kind of trust. Let them explain how they want to handle the money. The more specific they get, the more rope they hand us. And if it goes wrong, I'll be sitting right here the whole time. You get in trouble, you say the word transmission loud enough for the mic to catch it, and I'm through that door and under a minute. I almost laughed. Transmission. Toby's lie about the car coming back around to save his own downfall. Eve's house sat behind a low brick wall, the kind of place built to look comfortable rather than actually be comfortable. Everything in the front yard was trimmed too perfectly. I rang the bell at exactly 2 o'clock. Eve answered wearing a cardigan that probably cost more than my truck payment, her smile warm and completely rehearsed. Arthur, so glad you called. Please come in. The inside looked like a furniture catalog, cream couches, no photographs anywhere except one professionally staged shot of Toby and Faith's wedding day. Toby was already seated, dressed like he was heading into a sales meeting, that same easy smile he'd had since the day I met him. Dad, he stood and shook my hand with both of his. Glad you're seeing things clearly now. I want to help Faith. If she needs treatment, needs support, I have the resources. I just want to understand what we're dealing with. Eve settled into the armchair across from me with a legal pad already in her lap, like she'd been waiting all week for this exact conversation. I'm so relieved to hear you say that. Faith's condition is more serious than most families realized at first. The confusion, the memory lapses, it's been building for years. What kind of memory lapses? I asked, keeping my voice even, curious instead of skeptical. She'll insist things happened that never did, Toby said, shaking his head like it pained him. Says I've taken things from her, hidden things, when really I've just been trying to manage the household so she doesn't have to worry. She told me you took her car.
She probably believes that, Eve said gently, like she was explaining something to a slow child. That's the illness talking, Arthur. The car's being serviced. She forgets things like that and fills in the blanks with something dramatic. And her arm? The bruise? Toby sighed, long and practiced. She's been having balance issues, falls sometimes, doesn't remember falling. It's part of why we scheduled the evaluation, for her safety. I nodded slowly, like a man finally understanding a hard truth about his own daughter. So the guardianship filing is about keeping her safe. Exactly, Eve said, eyes brightening. And frankly, Arthur, if you wanted to contribute toward her care, we'd need to set it up so the funds are managed properly. Faith wouldn't have direct access, of course. In her state, she could spend it unwisely or not understand where it went. Managed by whom? By me, Eve said, without a flicker of hesitation. And by Toby, naturally, since he has power of attorney once the hearing goes through Thursday. There it was, plain and clean, exactly what Terry said would happen. I kept my face soft, worried, cooperative. And Maisie, what happens with her once the guardianship is granted? Toby and Eve exchanged a glance I wasn't supposed to catch. Maisie will stay with me, obviously. Faith isn't in a position to raise a child right now. It wouldn't be safe for either of them. You'll have full custody. Full guardianship over Faith, full custody of Maisie. It's cleaner that way. No messy court battle, no drawn-out fight. The doctor's evaluation makes it straightforward. He leaned back, comfortable, confident, exactly the way Terry said he would once he thought he'd already won. Honestly, Arthur, it's hard to hear, but this is the best outcome for everyone. Faith gets the care she needs, Maisie gets stability, and you get to stop worrying about all of it. What if the doctor's evaluation isn't accurate? The room went very still. Eve's pen stopped moving against the legal pad. Toby's easy smile thinned out just slightly, just enough. What do you mean by that? He asked. I mean, I said, Dr. Williams has written this exact letter twice before, for two other women, Amanda Reyes, Priya Anand. The color drained out of Toby's face so fast it was almost satisfying to watch. How do you… Eve stood up sharply, her legal pad sliding off her lap onto the floor, and her eyes went straight to my collar, right to the faint outline of the wire under my shirt. Toby, her voice had gone cold, flat, all warmth gone. He's wearing something.
Eve's hand shot toward my collar, but I was already standing, stepping back out of her reach. Don't, I said. Whatever you're thinking of doing next, don't. You wore a wire into my house? Her voice had lost every trace of the warm, concerned mother-in-law act. What was left underneath was cold and calculating. You set us up. You set my daughter up, I said. 3 times according to my count. Amanda Reyes, Priya Anand, and now Faith. Toby was on his feet too, his face gone tight and pale. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I understand exactly what I'm dealing with. A man who's changed his name twice, married 3 women with assets, and paid the same doctor to write the same letter each time so he could take everything through a courtroom instead of a fight. I kept my voice level, the way I used to in front of a jury when the other side's witness started to crack. It's all on tape, Toby. Every word since I walked through that door. Give me the wire. Toby's voice had dropped, low and hard. Nothing left of the salesman charm. Now. Try it, and I'll add assault to the fraud and conspiracy charges you're already about to face. For a moment, I thought he might actually come at me. His jaw worked, his hands curled into fists at his sides. Then a car door slammed outside, and through the front window, I saw Terry crossing the lawn fast, badge already out, 2 uniformed officers a step behind. Toby's whole body seemed to deflate at once. This isn't over, he said, backing toward the kitchen. You have no idea. I know exactly what I'm dealing with. A small-time con artist who finally picked the wrong family. Terry came through the front door without knocking. Toby Willis, also known as Robert Castell, also known as Anthony Castell. We need to talk about a Dr. Charlotte Williams,
and about 2 women named Amanda Reyes and Priya Anand. Eve tried to slip toward the back hallway. One of the officers stepped into a path without a word. I stood in that over-decorated living room and watched 2 people who spent years turning other people's trust into a business finally run out of road. 3 weeks later, I sat at Faith's kitchen table, her real kitchen table now, in the small rental she'd moved into with Maisie 2 days after the arrest, watching her help our granddaughter with a puzzle spread across the table between them. The guardianship petition had been withdrawn the same day Toby was arrested. Dr. Williams lost her license within the week once Terry's records reached the state medical board. The competency hearing never happened. Faith's name had never actually needed defending. It had only ever needed the truth in the room. I still can't believe how long it went on, Faith said quietly, not looking up from the puzzle piece in her hand. 2 years, Dad. I convinced myself I was the problem the whole time. You weren't the problem. You were the target. There's a difference. She was quiet a moment, turning a puzzle piece in her fingers. How did you know? At the bus stop. I thought I'd hidden it well enough. You didn't hide anything. I just finally started looking. Maisie glanced up at both of us, then went back to fitting a piece into the puzzle without needing anyone's permission first. It was a small thing. It was everything. Grandpa, can we do this puzzle every Sunday now? Every Sunday, for as long as you want. Faith reached over and squeezed my hand, the way she used to when she was small enough to still need help crossing the street. Thank you for not letting it go, she said. I'll never let you go again. Not for 2 years, not for 2 days. Outside, the afternoon light came in soft through the kitchen window, and for the first time in longer than I wanted to admit, the house was quiet in the good way, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm finally passes, not the kind that comes from being afraid to make a sound.